What is Cup Club and how did it all come about?
So Cup Club essentially is a returnable packaging service for drinks, takeaway drinks, which basically means that we supply retailers, businesses, corporates with packaging that consumers or their consumers or customers can take away and return to drop points to be collected, washed and packed and redelivered by us. So it's kind of a system that removes all single-use plastics and replaces it with really beautiful, durable takeaway packaging that lasts much longer. So 132 uses, reduces their waste stream and is far more sustainable.
Which, we're considering what's going on in the world right now, it's perfect timing for something like this. So what is different about your cups than other cups that are out there?
So we're one of the first businesses to change the course of reusable. So reusable packaging we've all seen, where you buy your own and you take it into a coffee shop. And what we found was the stats for that were very low. There were only 2% of consumers taking in their own reusable cups. So what we thought was really critical was to sort of look at the market and see how we could optimize that and make it more convenient for consumers to be part of this reusable revolution. And so the best way was to actually allow consumers to take away their coffee and be given the packaging at the point of sale, to take it away and then to return it when convenient, as opposed to have to remember to wash it, bring it in, and the ownership all being on them. Actually remove that, make it more convenient. So you actually have a network of retailers that participate, sign up to the club, and then operate that way. And they give them the option when they buy their coffee. They say, do you want to take it away in a single-use disposable, or do you want to take it away with the club?
Which makes so much sense. And as you said, I think you've got a tagline, haven't you, on the website, making it easy to do the right thing. Because, Rosanna, we're all trying, aren't we? But there are those things that do sort of just add that little bit extra that you have to think about normally. But this seems to just take a lot of those sort of elements out of the whole equation.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's giving people the responsibility back, but it's also removing kind of, I guess, the ownership of having that packaging with them all day and having to think about washing it and taking it with them in their bags. They can literally just take it, drink and drop. And then we manage everything else. We manage the whole logistical process of everything.
So it's also not adding any extra kind of pressure on the retailers themselves or the restaurants or the coffee shops or whoever is involved. They don't have to really do any extra sort of work themselves.
No, not exactly. There's still some ownership on the retailers. So we'd still, the participating retailers, we still ask them to kind of ask people if they want to use the cup, because there's still other possibilities that they can use their own cups and things like that. So we're not trying to eliminate everything else from the market. But yeah, it's giving them a bit of responsibility as well. So it's not completely eliminating everything that they need to do. So we are looking to get them on board and their kind of backing as well.
And Safia, how has it been received so far then?
So we've launched actually in London. That's where we've kicked off, and we've focused specifically in the workplace. So 25% of consumers drink coffee either at work or in education, closed systems, closed buildings, which has been an incredible launch for us and very successful. And now we're looking at the retail aspect and what that looks like. And that's coming along quite nicely. So that's what has brought us to the Isle of Man, obviously. Very interesting conversations here with retailers in terms of understanding how we can best provide them a product that suits them, that works for them. People are very conscious about the coastal region here because it is a UNESCO biosphere. We're very passionate about eliminating single-use plastics. And I think that just marries really well with some of the businesses here and what they're trying to do around zero waste. So, yeah, lots of plans in the pipeline.
And it's exciting as well to hear that this sort of ties in really nicely on a timeline with, for instance, our government, who have committed to reducing single-use plastics as well. So that sort of all ties in really nicely. Have you been able to speak to the government about this at all then?
Yes, we have. I mean, it's a cross-collaborative system. So with any sort of network initiatives like ours, where you're basically providing a service, you're not just selling a product, we have to get everybody on board. So stakeholders start from government level where they're able to support and help us open the channels to the right people in the retail sectors, but also in the tourism industry. So here, of course, you have fluctuations of people visiting, and then also the retailers. So government has been very supportive because of the initiative that they've just rolled out, and they are looking at different ways of reducing plastics on the island.
And we are, at the end of the day, we are facing, a huge problem at the moment with plastics. So, Rosanna, how much difference do you think this sort of scheme can actually make?
I think it's absolutely necessary, and I think it's the way the world is going. I think this year has kind of highlighted that to a lot of people with Blue Planet, and so many different initiatives that are going on. Obviously, on this island, you've got people like Rowan who are kind of pioneering and going into schools and really teaching. Something that we've really noticed from being here is how the education system here is really kind of targeting the young children. And we've heard so many stories about primary school children going home and kind of telling their parents about how to recycle and how they should be using compostable materials and things like that. So, which is incredible. We've heard some really incredible stories since we've been here.
So we've heard a little bit about what you have been doing here, Safia, but how did you actually find the Isle of Man? How did you end up here in the first place?
Very good question. So I think we were on Sky News, and one of our biggest champions on the island is Chris from Fidelta, and he saw us on Sky News and just gave me a call blindly one day. So I just got a random phone call saying, the Isle of Man is always trying to champion some positive, forward-thinking initiatives like this, and we would love to see what we can do to help. So what we find is we get approached by these very sort of incredible champions who have no particular sort of vested interest, but just are the vehicle for change. So it was quite incredible. That development moved really fast. And obviously through that has brought in a whole network of now retailers who are really excited. So really it was just, it was them reaching out to us to say, hi, we'd love to see something like this become a reality. And for us, it was a perfect brief because we were looking for an incredible kind of retail environment that was sort of contained. Testing something like this immediately in a city like London is very hard to control, and actually bringing it over to the Isle of Man means that you can really understand the dynamics of how people consume. You can speak to the community because they behave more like a tribe and a community because they're all islanders. And you can really understand what the requirements are of the retailers and really listen to them, get their feedback, and develop a system like this to then take it globally. So in terms of, I think, from the government's perspective and some of the other stakeholders, it's very exciting because it propels the Isle of Man as well as to this incredible case study where you can bring these incredible new systems and really try them, and it's just such a unique environment for that. So great marriage of, I think, an alignment of interests.
And speaking of people from sort of different backgrounds who just want to do something to help, I think you originally an architect, weren't you? So
Correct.
How on earth did you get into doing this?
Right. So Cup Club actually was a project that my agency developed up. So when I set up the design and architecture consultancy, our brief was to come up with solutions to very big global problems. And of course, at the time, I had no previous experience of packaging. I had never really ventured into IoT or infrastructure or any of that. But I found that in 2015, when we started this, it was really a side project in the agency. And we thought, wouldn't it be incredible if there was a way for us to not think that we could use things for a couple of minutes, like 15 minutes for a cup and then you're finished. But why not have a system where you borrow products and you return them to the system when you're finished? Because we could see in trending, we could see that plastics is going to become a global problem. The way that we're consuming needs to be addressed. And so we knew that we also couldn't develop systems to tell people stop consuming, please, but we had to make it more efficient. So instead of having a linear waste stream where we think that recycling is going to save us, which it can't, how do we use the material to make better products, to have them in circulation for longer? But yet still have a convenience that consumers are used to. So really it was a side project. And then it just grew momentum. We headlined it at a couple of design festivals, and then we realized, okay, this is definitely, a point in our agency life where we realized we either commercialize this and make it a reality, or we just keep it as another project that's going to sit on our website for forever, and we could talk about it, and maybe it'll come to life at some point by someone else. So really, that was a decision. So then I set it up as an independent company. And then I've been developing it up ever since.
And something that's really interesting is that, so Safia, you set this up in 2015, wasn't it? So long before anyone was talking about any of this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Yeah, Blue Planet wasn't on the scene at that time. And
so really sort of ahead of the game with regards to thinking ahead about this, which
it's
is
definitely
great.
beating the drum before a lot of people. I mean, but so were, alongside all the other environmentalists who've been beating the drum for about 20 years. It has become a mainstream media story only in the last 12 months.
Do you think that is
incredible.
because of Blue Planet, or do you think there's something else that's changed in the psyche of the community?
I think, I mean, media has such an incredible part to play in communications and making people aware of global crisis problems. And social media now just brings everything to the front a lot faster, a lot quicker. I think the relevance of researchers and incredible people like David Attenborough really carry weight, and for people to see the exact effects of what we're having on the planet is really critical. And bringing that mainstream and him just making that message, I don't think anyone realized it would go that far. But just in the last 6 months, businesses and consumers are moving much faster than governments are able to adapt to, and their requirements are changing. Because we've realised that the last 20 years we've been asleep. We've really not paid attention to what we're doing.
So you clearly have a really positive and optimistic view of this. So it's not too late then. What do you think? Because there is that concern, isn't there, that we are doing all of this, these wonderful new initiatives on this particular side of the world and in the West, and there's lots of people who are now considerably more aware than they were. But there are nations in other areas who are still, pulling up dump trucks to the side of the coast and dumping all of their waste into the sea. So is there something to be said for us needing to actually focus on those areas?
So we can't regulate everyone. We can just regulate ourselves and our own jurisdictions first. That's what we have immediate control over. So focusing on becoming the example is the most important thing. So you have to lead industry by example. You have to show people what a future looks like, how we can live and sustain in a more environmental way, and then set those up as case studies and then try and make them go viral so that people understand that there are opportunities, there are solutions. I don't think even as a brand, so we're never about outlining the negatives and making people feel guilty. It's about how can we be more hopeful for the future? How can we set things up? How can we give people options as opposed to make them feel very awful? So they can be a part of the change.
Well said. And speaking of being part of the change, Rosanna, you won an award as well, haven't you? You've got an innovation award for the Cup Club. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. Safia's probably better placed. So I've been with Safia for about 2 months now. So she won the award before I joined her. So she's probably better placed.
The New Plastics Economy Innovation Prize, yes. So one of the reasons why I started Cup Club was my fascination for Ellen MacArthur. So she's one of the most well-known sailors out there. And just a remarkable character and a female founder. And so her entire initiative around the circular economy was actually what got us really excited about setting this up. And then interestingly, in 2017, they got about a 2 million prize opportunity to give businesses that were working in the circular economy the opportunity to drive that business forward and develop it and commercialize it. So we were one of the businesses that won the New Plastics Economy Innovation Prize. So the funding came from Prince Charles Foundation as well as Wendy Schmidt. And it was a collaboration with IDEO. So they're an amazing design consultancy alongside Ellen MacArthur. So that in October 2017 was an incredible sort of round, came full circle. And yeah, they're an incredible agency to be working with because they basically consult and advise all the big major corporates. So that's Coca-Cola, Nestle, Danone, M&S, in terms of trying to understand and give them a better vision for what the new circular economy can be for them. And since then, they've made pledges for 2025 to go 100% reusable, 100% recyclable, or 100% compostable.
Wow, that is fantastic.
Yeah.
It begs the question, though, could Cup Club work with things like soft drinks and everything as well, then?
Absolutely. So we always say drinks because it's just the ability to carry both hot and cold. Coffee is, of course, the first, most obvious daily ritual that we do. And for us to explain how a system like this is so easy is to try and embed it in everyone's ritual. so they can understand by example and say, oh, right, okay, if it works for this, then it could totally work for X, Y, and Z.
It could be any packaging, couldn't it? You could
Yes.
sort of salads and sandwiches and everything turn up and fill your little bowl and take it away with you.
We're starting with cups.
Yes, there's a long road ahead.
So you did mention the word global earlier on. What are your aims and ambitions for Cup Club? Is that it? You want to conquer the world?
Well, yes. I mean, it's definitely something that, like you're saying, we're noticing globally. This problem isn't just hitting the UK or in Europe. This is a problem that we're having to solve everywhere. So we do get approached by governments internationally, all the way from Vancouver to South Africa to Hong Kong to New Zealand and Australia. So we know that there is a demand for this. And at the moment, we're working on a mixture of different projects to see, which route for us works the best. But it's essentially, we're at that stage where we're scaling and we're trying to understand what the dynamics will be for brands as well, because we're here to champion others. It's not just us building a brand, but it's to make sure that we carry all the big brands with us. And actually, this is a community effort, which is why Isle of Man is so excellent, because it really is a community. It is really a tribe of different retailers coming together.
And I realise it's very early days as well. You've literally only just landed on the Isle of Man, and I know you've had lots of meetings and there's lots of exciting stuff going on. But any sort of rough idea of when we might see something like this, if it does sort of come off, when we might see this in our own little cafes and restaurants and things on the island?
Very soon, hopefully. So I can't say exactly what's happening. It's all in the pipeline, but we are making some plans to be back here in a few weeks' time. And carry on those discussions and development towards something happening hopefully in the new year. So we'll keep you posted.